And we're live.
Let me get over to my account so I can share it out.
We're live early because we were just going to watch a few things, watch some like 7OH videos and stuff before the webinar started.
Yeah, we're just here to chit chat.
Chilling, talking about the,
7OH.
yeah. I'm trying to multitask. Let's see here. All right. And then I'm going to go.
We're just sharing it. We're just sharing the live right now, so
Yeah. Sorry.
be patient.
I still cannot get over North Carolina.
I can't either.
Like, that is so mind blowing.
Like, yeah, let's just sneak it in at the last minute. Maybe they won't even notice.
Man, it's so messed up. Like, that shouldn't even be legal to do.
Right.
Oops. Man. You ever try to I'm about to do it again. You're trying to like type something, but you're talking at the same time, and so you start typing what you're
Well,
saying.
yes. Yes.
Oh, I can't do too much at one time. What the heck? Okay, let me try this again.
When I go to my YouTube channel, it doesn't even show it on the live. Or there it is. So weird. So yeah, the American Creative Association webinar is supposed to start in like 30 minutes. So in the meantime, we're just going to show y'all some 7OH TikTok videos that we come across.
And there is quite a bit. There's a lot of 7OH video. I mean, it's just like
Yeah. You know, and you know, I like to say this. I mean, it wasn't easy, you know, to try and get the message out there about what synthetic 7OH is. You know, I'm gonna kind of pat myself on the back here as well as Jen. We kind of spearheaded this movement, you know, and the fact that we are seeing more and more and more people finally feel comfortable enough to tell their stories. That's what this whole thing was about, you know, because I say this all the freaking time. I sat on that 7OH information for a long time before I felt comfortable with myself to speak.
yeah, but it needed to be done. I
Yeah,
mean, it needed to be done. I mean, because like all these videos coming out, I mean, that's just awareness to how many people are getting suckered into the 7OH stuff, you
yeah.
know?
You know, and yes, my account took a big hit, you know, in February of this year when, you know, my videos somehow made it to the sewer of social media, which was the Reddit rat thread, the 7OH thread. And bam, 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 they were reporting me left and right. You know, I shut my accounts down and, you know, had to sit on it for a while until I started talking about it again because, you know, I work my fucking ass off. on my social media accounts. I am not a paid advocate. I'm
Yeah.
not monetized on none of my social medias. I'm not vendor sponsored. You know, I advocate with passion, not for profit. And the fact that these motherfuckers want to sit over there and mass report my shit because all I'm doing is spreading the current science about 7OH, yeah, y'all get the fuck on. Go on.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, Craig.
What's up, Craig?
What's up?
So the fact that it's like bloomed over there on TikTok right now within the past couple of weeks, where it just like boom, 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 one right after another. We started seeing more and more people start telling their story about their firsthand experience with 7OH.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we wanted. You know, we've been, like I said, I knew about it in the fall or winter of 2023. You know, and then it was when was that? Last year. It was early last year was when I started talking about it. I didn't
Yeah.
want to do it. I didn't want to do it because I did not want to use and this people have accused me of this too. I did not want to use my accounts as looking like I'm promoting 7OH, you know, just by me spreading the awareness about it, you know, and people have accused me of doing that. People that have followed me for years, they themselves have accused me of using my platform to talk about 7OH, and then they go get 7OH.
Yeah.
Now it was a husband and wife. Now they're spending hundreds, if not thousands, a fucking week, and then they went and blamed me for that shit. Like, what the hell? Sorry, I didn't mean to hit my damn computer.
I mean, it's almost it's alarming seeing how it's just like grown, you know,
It's
just so many people just struggling.
Yeah, but you know, like you said, Jen, somebody had to do it, you know, and not only on TikTok do we get backlash from it, we got backlash a hell of a lot on our YouTube videos,
Oh,
a
yeah.
hell of a lot.
Still do.
And all I got to say is, if it's saving your life, get off your fucking ass and advocate for it.
Right.
Make your own videos. Where the fuck are y'all?
Yeah.
If it's saving your life, why are you staying in the sewer? Reddit. Why are you staying in Reddit under your anonymous accounts?
It's just, I don't know.
But yeah, so within the past couple weeks, and I freaking love that the news stations are picking up the 7OH TikTok videos. I love that.
Yeah.
I am just livid how ... can get things banned just by saying my kid died. All the science gets thrown out the window. We need a 2016 mass signature or gathering. This North Carolina ban was snuck in with the hemp regulation. Yep, Craig, yep.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I am still mind blown, you know, that Connecticut happened, and now you got North Carolina pretty much doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. It just shouldn't be a thing. Like, it shouldn't even be able to happen.
It's almost like a little birdie got in their ear and be like, hey, sneak this in. That way
Yep.
they will never find out. But you got advocates that work tirelessly to find
Yeah.
out shit like this. So yeah, we're gonna start showing these 7 or 8. Now, so since we're on Restream, you know, we're doing things different. You know, it's just me and Jen, and it's so the setup is kind of different whenever we show TikTok videos. And we had been over here, you know, trying to figure out if we could do it this way, if we could do it that way. And you know what? It's just, there's so many 7OH videos that we're not going to just go through each one of them separately. You know, we're just going to play, you know, the 7OH hashtags that are going on.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to do. And you guys get to see what we're seeing over there on TikTok. The explosion of 7OH videos. They're calling it the silent epidemic, which is yeah. I agree.
It's so crazy how many people, first of all, didn't even know what kratom was.
Yeah.
but then get told this is kratom. It's just, I don't know. It's shocking.
Seasoned kratom consumers.
Yes.
You know, they have the stories are all almost very identical. You know, they go to their, if they normally go to their vape store, you know, to go get their kratom, they're being thrusted in their face. It's dangling. They're telling them, hey, this is more potent form of kratom. Try this out, buddy. And they do. And then they done pissed out their life savings.
Okay. I got some up here that is good. Let me come here.
So the AKA webinar should be starting in like 25 minutes.
All right. So there's that. Wait.
Yeah, you got to do the whole thingy. What's up, Jen?
Hey! All right. Okay. I found this one today.
If you haven't tried these new things yet, don't try it. Don't do it. I am in the depths of hell with these things, trying to get off of them. Don't do it. Stick to the plain, regular leaf kratom. This is not kratom. Don't do it.
Yeah, words of wisdom right there.
Yep. And the autoplay. Hold on, maybe I should take that off. Okay.
If you haven't tried,
Let's see.
Are you on your favorites? Or did you type in, oh, you did the
Good
7-0.
to see, here I am. Hold on. Here we go.
I love this comment. Because honestly, that is what like kratom should be. It should just be
You want to pause it real quick?
It should just be like a medicinal herb
So I can
that
read
has
the
all
comment?
these different alkaloids.
Oh, well, better put my glasses back on. I'm confused. 7OH, if you're talking about the, man, I can't even see it. Okay, if you're talking about the glossy leaves from the South Asian plant have been used in the herbal medicine for a long time. They have opioid-like effects, but I'm assuming a smoke shop. All right, what does Craig say? I have used 7OH for research purposes. It is no joke. You do not need pharmaceutical opiates to get high. I know when to say when. I'm stronger than my mom who died from, because my screen's on full screen, I can't see that.
Oh, the exact same thing. It's the new Oxycontin epidemic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane.
But Craig, see, here's the thing is that these products are marketed to active addicts. And not only them, it's marketed to the chronic pain population. You know, so.
And I mean, chronic pain, I could understand, they're not experienced kratom users or whatever, and they think, oh, well, I can just take a pill like I did with my pain medicine. You know what I mean? And it gets away.
Yeah.
It stops working for a very long time and everything.
Next thing you know, they're taking 600 milligrams.
Yeah, or I've seen even more.
Day.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen more?
Yeah.
It's insane. And to think that, so they sell these in the like 3 to 5 packs or whatever, and it's supposed to be like 15 milligram, 20 milligram. The highest I've seen is 80 milligram per tablet.
Yeah.
So they keep making them stronger and stronger.
As long as they can make a buck from it, they're going to keep doing it. All right, here's this dude.
It's all these benefits, right?
Also, this guy reminds me of David from the Roseanne show. I swear to God, he does.
Yes.
But, when you leave an industry like the kratom industry unregulated, people get greedy, America is pretty famous for its corporate greed, and I think 7.0 is a product of that. Like, Kratom, when it first came to the United States, that's all it was. A lot of like Eastern, I'm sure a lot of Eastern vendors, brought it over to the West, and it had those benefits and those effects. But over time, other people got wind of it that had money, had capital, and wanted to research it and make it more powerful and make more money off of it. And that's when you started getting these extracts, like they're called MIT extracts. Main brands like MIT 45, OPMS, you may have seen these in gas stations, smoke shops, even like farmers markets. Like I've heard people seeing like feel free
Insane.
farmers markets, but 70H is kind of almost like the final boss of these. 70H is a very little. It's in amounts in like even the regular in the MIT extracts. They were able to extract the extracts pretty much using this thing called oxidation to create a super addictive version of kratom, pretty much. Or I wouldn't even say it's like kratom. It's a product of kratom. And I think that's just to show, that the kratom industry has been unchecked, unregulated, and this is what it's turned into. And it's really sad because, you know what? I'm sure when kratom came over here to the West, to the United States, the people's intentions were pure. They just wanted it to be a medicinal herb. But, you can't have that for long. People get greedy, they get ambitious, and now we're dealing with a silent epidemic.
Yep.
Yep.
So, his video, can you click on his profile and go show how we found him. Keep going down because it's like the last time I checked, it was 1.7 million views.
Let's see. Is it really this far down?
It might be. Because he's been on it, he almost every day he's out here putting.
Well, here we go. 1.7 million.
1.7 million views, y'all.
And that's not like the only one. Like there are just. Hold on, let's.
Was there another one that was 1.7 million? Let me go back on my big screen.
Let's see. Loop.
You totally went out of his profile.
Oh,
Yeah, play. Oh, my bad.
I love
play the one that was 1.7 million views.
That is what
Gotcha. I'm just like, okay, here we go.
This is where we really kind of know that 7. So
163,000 likes.
Kind of know that 7.0 is a serious problem, and it's something that people should be aware of, and the dangerous of it and how addictive it can be. So we in the Quitting 7.0 group, we had a smoke shop owner who sells 7-hydroxy products. He came in and talked about his experience that he had the other day with a regular of his. So this guy has been coming in for years. Great relationship with the owner. The owner's even seen pictures of his daughter, his newborn daughter, like when he had his kid, and so he'd come in the morning, buy a bunch of 7.0 products, and one morning he came in and he was getting his usual, and then he ran his card, took his stuff, walked away, and it declined. The owner was like, "Hey, man, your card declined," right? Which is, totally normal. I didn't think he heard him, so he took more steps forward. The owner screamed, "Hey, man, your card declined." And before he exits the door, the regular turns around and goes, "I'm sorry, but I have to do this." And he committed a crime right there. He probably stole about like $100 worth of merchandise just to get out of withdrawal. Like that's really how addictive that this stuff is, that people are willing to steal, lie, and cheat for it. People are taking out payday loans for it. We're
seeing news stories on it,
Yeah, it's not as bad as traditional street drugs, right, where people are ODing all the time, but it ruins finances, it ruins lives, and it's gonna cause crime as well. Like, I won't be surprised if we see, and smoke shops are already a high target of crime, especially where I am in Washington. I work for one, and they got broken into multiple times. Usually it's people stealing the geek bars or whatever, but now it's going to be the 7-0. And
Yeah.
It's already happening, buddy.
these shop owners, a lot of these guys are just nice people that immigrated here to feed their families. And this is like a family business they run. They're also getting hit with nicotine regulations left and right, which affects their, their income. And it's
Yep.
really sad. So they've had to turn to, stuff like Kratom and 7-0 just to make money and survive. Because this economy is so rough right now, and I just feel for owners out there and their safety and, what can come of this if we don't get some regulation on 7-0. So I hope this kind of helps spread some more awareness on the topic. We have Quitting 7-0 Reddit. Please go take a peek at that if you want more information about the dangers of it. We're states are going to be banning it. I know Louisiana just banned Kratom and 7-0 as a whole. But we're going to see more states follow through. I'm going to be writing a letter to the Washington state legislators on Sunday. That's kind of my plan with my day off. But we're going to be putting in work. We're going to get this stuff. We're going to keep our kids safe. We're going to keep our family safe. Let's go.
Yeah, nobody's stealing kratom powder. It's only the 7-0H.
Yeah. Yep. Craig, it was just a difference of morals.
I can't believe that should happen, Brandon. I cannot. And I can't believe that they're trying to do it in North Carolina now.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean, I haven't heard any more updates. So when the webinar, what time is it? So the webinar will start in like 15 minutes. So
this is where.
Oh, me and him
Sorry.
said so at the same time. So we'll find out more about what's going to happen, all that stuff. So it's a goddamn shame, man. I swear to God. Do you want to go play that Detroit news story that just came out?
Yeah.
Where they actually took some of the people that we follow each other. They took their TikToks and included it in the news story.
It's on your thing. Let's see here. Should be.
Yep, right there.
Okay.
A pill known as 7-hydroxy. A pill known as 7-hydroxy. It's as addictive as many illegal narcotics, but you can buy it right over the counter.
Well, it's for sale at gas stations and smoke shops, and the drug trend is just sweeping the streets, destroying lives.
Is the volume low for y'all?
Jessica Dupnack is here to really break this all down for us. Jessica, tell us.
Is that better?
How did you find out?
Well, first of all, this is something that I had never heard of until a couple of weeks ago. One of our Fox 2 photographers showed me some warning videos from former addicts all over TikTok. We started digging, and what we found was downright scary.
You are going to a smoke shop and you're buying heroin.
When I tell you this had me slumped.
When you take 2 to 4, it would look like you're on heroin, basically.
You could just go to the store right now and get some more.
Kratom, Zaza, gas station heroin.
Gas station heroin. That's the street name for pills called 7-hydroxy. They're legal. You can buy the tablets at gas stations and smoke shops. 7-hydroxy is banned in some other countries and states in the U.S., but here at home, we found they're all over.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Our Fox 2 photographer went undercover to learn more about the recreational drug that is 10 times as strong as morphine, according to the National Institutes of Health.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Wait, what's up, Wade?
Oh, okay.
Brave, says the clerk. That's one way to put it.
It was very similar to the experience I had on any other opiate. It was that warm, fuzzy feeling, that feeling of euphoria and being numb.
Isaiah Zinzer lives in Gainesville, Florida. He heard about 7-hydroxy from a famous YouTuber named
There's the
Bob
goblin.
who smoked the drug.
I'm so glad he did that video.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say straight up, this, if you didn't tell me what this was, if you handed me the pill form of this and didn't tell me it was 7-0, I would assume you just gave me a perk or like an opiate.
The packaging almost always includes the word kratom on it. Kratom is a tree from Southeast Asia. 7-hydroxy is a compound found in that plant, but it's significantly more potent. It binds to the opioid receptors in the brain, just like so many illegal narcotics. Isaiah calls them 7-O's, and he says he was hooked immediately.
It was a problem the first time I ever took it because of the ease of access and the availability of it. It was very justifiable for me to go and do it multiple times a day, every day.
He even picked up delivery jobs just to pay for the addiction. As the pills took hold, he says his life crumbled. At his worst, he was taking 220 milligrams per day. The average dose is anywhere from 10 to 20 milligrams.
My mom came down from Ohio to see me in Florida for the first time after 7 months. And when she saw me on that stuff, she directly accused me of being on heroin.
That visit was a wake-up call to quit cold turkey, while some of his friends had to use a drug called Suboxone, used to help with opioid-like withdrawal symptoms.
The withdrawal process was agony. Awful.
It might not be mainstream, but people are hooked. We found bare shelves at this local smoke shop.
Do you guys sell like the 7-OH stuff?
Yeah, the smoke cabinet. Yeah, we're kind of low because every Wednesday is buy one get one half off. People come spend $200 on this stuff.
Oh, what, like a day?
About every other day. There's one guy, he comes in about 4 or 5 times a day for him.
Our photographer voiced his concern over trying it, and the clerk agreed.
I would say if you haven't started, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah, people are going more towards it and spending even more, and I see them more often now.
Yeah.
The withdrawal symptoms are so quick. Like by the next morning, I was feeling this.
I keep hearing that too.
Me too.
Mom Katie Bowers from Bismarck, North Dakota, was addicted to 7-hydroxy after one dose. She turned to it for chronic back pain.
I actually broke my back in 2004 in a dirt bike accident. For the last 20 years, I've dealt with back pain.
Admittedly, she was addicted to narcotics in the past, and this was just as bad, she says, if not worse, because it's so easy to buy.
Borrowing money, hiding things, asking, lying, things like that. Door dashing just for money and being there when they opened, kind of thing.
After 7 months on it, she finally quit.
I finally just admitted to, my boyfriend and my sister that I wasn't doing well. Sorry.
She was one of the first people I met on TikTok.
Just took back asking for help.
Coincidentally, it's been banned in a lot of the countries where it's cultivated at.
But not here in Michigan.
People feel comfortable with the fact that it's a natural supplement or it's an herb or something like that. But there's an awful lot of things that populate this earth that you can ingest that will kill you, that grow on a tree or a flower or whatever else.
Because 7-hydroxy is legal, law enforcement's hands are tied. The only option right now is outing the effects of the drug.
I needed to do more research before I put it in my body rather than just take a salesperson's, word for it on something I'm putting in my body like that.
For now, it'll stay on store shelves. The only requirement to buy that you're 21 and up.
It's very dangerous knowing someone like my little brother eventually could walk into a smoke shop and get his hands on something he has no business touching.
Now we talked to an addict specialist over at DWIN. Their stats show that 7-hydroxy is more used in the suburbs, not in the city of Detroit. They do have a 24-hour staffed hotline. If you are in crisis with 7-hydroxy or any other drug, that information is on our website.
So it's easily to get it very easily, but what's the price? I mean,
it's relatively cheap. That's the thing. Starts in
It's
about
not.
a 4-pack anywhere. From
Well, it is in the
$15
beginning, I guess.
to $20 to $25, depending on the potency. And you heard there in the story that some of these people are coming 5 times a day to the same smoke shop to buy a pack of these. So it can get expensive, but on its face, it's not too bad.
What about emergency rooms? Are they starting to see people come in there yet?
What's interesting is the stats aren't that readily available yet. It's, we hadn't heard of
I've
it.
seen a lot of people saying they're going
It's
to the
also
ER
new.
for
There
detox.
was legislation a couple of years ago to try and regulate it, so it is on the radar, but it's not mainstream, and that's exactly what we're trying to do is alert folks.
Thanks to you and your photographer, this is going to shake up a lot in Metro
We hope
Detroit
so.
and hopefully help people as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
That's what I'm saying. Keep making those 7-OH videos, your voices matter, you know, and like me and Jen, like we could totally tell when people are doing it just for clout. We can see that shit, and we can see the authentic videos, you know, but keep making if you are struggling with 7OH, this is what the common denominator is on my videos, in the comments in my videos, or in my private messages. What people are doing to get off of 7OH is they are buying a lab tested metragenine liquid extract. Then they transition to whole leaf powder. And then if they're just completely done with it all, they taper from the powder. That's it. That's how they're doing it. Some people, yes. Some people are getting on Suboxone for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. They'll, the free samples. A lot of people are that's their gateway, is like they're getting that free sample.
Wayne says,
dude.
A guy I know who's an addict was hell-bent on trying. I told him not to. 3 days of taking 80 milligrams a day. He had to get on Suboxone to come off. Man.
I really, because, we've all been there struggling, especially with addiction. It's like, I just feel so bad for the people that go into it just completely having no clue.
And then I constantly, whenever I'm posted up about this shit, like I did yesterday on Facebook, I'm constantly having to go over round and round with people in the comments who want to defend 7OH. And yes, they, 7OH, yeah, it's saving somebody from illicit fentanyl. Cool. But at what cost?
Right.
Because people are spending thousands upon thousands on this. They could have had a car paid off in full, a brand new 2025 car paid off in full.
It's ruining people's, their relationships and their jobs, and it's just, it's.
You want to come at me and say that, it's saving people's life, and then you got the motherfuckers over there talking about it. The whole new CDC data that's coming out about the overdose rates have got dramatically dropped, and they're lumping it in together, saying, well, is there a coincidence? Because 7OH was mass produced in like 2023, so maybe there is a coincidence there. So they're using that. The 7OH community is using that as one of their talking points. And I
can't remember what Max said during the last webinar, how he put it, but it was kind of like, no, if you believe that, then.
He said something funny, huh?
Yeah, he did. I can't remember what it was.
It wasn't like you're high. I don't know. He did. He said something funny.
So the webinar should be starting any second. But yeah, and that's the thing, like, people need to be, and I know people have every right to put whatever they want to in their body, but a lot of this stuff, we don't even know what the hell's in it.
Yeah.
And the lab reports, for those that do have lab reports, are they testing for residual chemicals?
Right.
Half of them are not.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of things that's just really, really bad about it.
And then you read about the people that's having stomach problems or esophagus problems because of the heartburn that they're getting. Well, you're ingesting a freaking chemical.
Right.
You know what nail polish remover smells like? That's one of them, acetone, and then they got the pull shock. So
that is insane. I'm going to pull this up. So now when it starts, we'll know. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's not good. That can't be good to ingest. So, it's just, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing, the arguments against it. And again, like, I'm not saying that we need to ban anything. I'm just saying it's becoming a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's becoming a huge problem.
I have a whole Facebook thread.
I know. I love that.
I
wish I had time to look through it.
I know.
I wish I had time.
Of the robberies, that Knoxville cop, that story went huge over there on my TikTok.
A police officer.
Yeah. Stealing what they said was kratom pouches. And then it later came out it was 7OH that he stole. You don't fucking go steal kratom powder. Ain't nothing in kratom powder that makes you crave it enough to go risk doing jail time for.
Yeah.
But those warm fuzzies, which is what I used to get, that's what I used to chase when I was addicted to oxycodone. You know, it was that warm, fuzzy, warm blanket body feeling that came over. You know, that's what I used to chase.
Yep.
And then when popping pills wasn't enough, I used to store them. You know, and then when that wasn't enough, I used to smoke them off aluminum foil. So I don't know. It's just like those TikTok videos said, this is a silent epidemic, you know?
Yeah.
And you could try to shut us down all you want, but we ain't going to stop raising awareness about this at all, because your love for 7-OH is getting our kratom that saved our lives banned.
Right. And it's just every news report you see, they call it kratom.
Yeah.
And even these people that, you know, are making the 7-OH videos are
They're
calling
addicted to it themselves.
Yeah.
Remember Goblin Screenshot?
Yeah.
I'm not going to name the business, but he's addicted to it himself.
Yeah. Say, please do not use the word kratom. It strikes it out. It's 7-0 completely. Yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah. Stop calling 7-OH kratom. It is not kratom.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, even the people taking 7-OH will call it kratom.
Yeah. They're justifying within themselves.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
I believe so. Even if they don't even realize they're doing it. I think that, man, there's a lot about to, a lot of stuff going on. I'm curious to see what Mac's going to say, especially about North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I still cannot believe that happened. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
You going to take us off camera? Okay.
So welcome, everyone. This is Matt Cattle. We're letting people join here. It just takes a while to populate on this program, and it's rapidly going through the cycling of allowing participants to join.
I'm going to mute us.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get started. Thanks to everyone for joining us. My name is Matt Caddo with the American Kratom Association. Joining me this evening is David Carlucci, who is our lobbyist in New York and helps us on the federal level. We're going to be talking about some state-specific information, and I think that what's happening in New York is a good illustration of what happens in other states, where you have to do a lot of horse trading and a lot of manipulating, being able to get members to understand the differences between these manipulated products. And so it's important that we have an understanding of how this kind of thing works. But excuse me, when they say that legislation is like sausage making, it's true as we go forward. But let me start out just by talking generally about some of the challenges we're facing this year. And I know that there is a lot of chatter going on of finger pointing about who's responsible for what. We have seen a significant uptick in the number of ban bills that are being recommended in state legislatures. And we've had success this year in adding, we're up to 17 states that have passed the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. We're not done, and we're optimistic that we're going to get more that will add there. One of the most significant ones is Rhode Island, and this evening, the Senate Health Committee voted out both the House and the Senate Kratom Consumer Protection Acts from the committee, and it goes to the House or the Senate floor on Friday. The way the process works there is the Senate bill has to go over to the House to be passed, and then they send both bills to the governor, and the governor has committed that unless there is a deleterious amendment, that he'll sign it. So we're encouraged. I know that there are people within the kratom industry and within the 7-OH industry that are working hard to defeat that bill, but I think we have a solid agreement with the governor, and if this bill survives any last-minute floor amendments, which we expect that it will, then we're going to be able to have a KCPA in Rhode Island, which will be fabulous. We think that we're going to have a KCPA in North Carolina, despite the addition of a ban provision that was added here just in the last couple of days. And when this happens, and it has happened before, we have to simply react. A member of the chamber, in this case a senator, has the ability to amend any bill that they want, and they then have to start the process of clearing that legislation through. We have a Kratom Consumer Protection Act, which we've been working on for a couple of years and has good support in both chambers. And so we're fighting hard that to get this through and be able to defeat that ban bill. We've seen similar ban bills that get traded off. Nebraska is a great example. We had a ban bill and we replaced it with the KCPA, and the KCPA prevailed. We saw that happen in South Dakota. Obviously, an important process for us to go through. So this is just a process that we have to work with. In the state of California, we have a KCPA that just passed unanimously through the House. Now, it is targeted to the state of California to address an issue with the Department of Health in California, who has adopted the position that the FDA has that all kratom is adulterated. And so we're clearing the pathway. And then we know we're going to have more work to be done on that bill next year, but we need to get this through right now in its current form in order to clear the pathway for legal kratom sales in the state of California. Everyone likely knows that we had a huge battle in the state of Texas. Senator Perry in the state of Texas, who's a very influential member of the Senate, a chairman of a committee, used every one of the levers that he had available to him in order to ban kratom. We defeated the ban bill and put amendments on it. The amendments were not the KCPA. There is an existing KCPA that needs to have strengthened enforcement powers. And Senator Perry took the position that you can't tell the difference between good kratom and bad kratom, so you should just ban it. And so when he saw the strong resistance to the ban, he created what sounded like a very plausible and a very acceptable bill, say, okay, we'll allow kratom to be sold, but it can't be sold in any place that sells vapes, hemp products, alcohol, or cigarettes. What's left? Milk? I mean, this was a de facto ban that he had on kratom, and it was a monumental lift for us to be able to defeat that amended bill because of his power in the legislature and the SWAT that he brought over to the House to try to bully his way through. And thankfully, through an excellent lobbying effort and advocacy messaging that reached the leadership of the House, they resisted the Perry bill, and we found that it died. And we've got work to do between now and 2 years from now. Texas is one of those states where they meet every other year. And so we've got some work to do in terms of doing some required research that the legislative leadership has asked us for that speaks to the benefits that people experience in using kratom and evaluating the safety of the products that are on the market and identifying a demarcation of what the bad products are. And we're going to work on that and prepare for it. We did not have similar success, unfortunately, in the state of Louisiana. We ran into just as biased a person as could be in that with Senator Morris over there. And you just have to watch the hearings that were going on and the treatment that he had for witnesses that appeared before him. You had Chris McCurdy from the University of Florida, one of the preeminent kratom scientists in the world, who was disrespected by the committee and by obviously by Senator Morris and his committee. You had in the follow-on committee hearing, you had Kirsten Smith from Johns Hopkins University and Jack Henningfield, both preeminent scientists, and he mocked them and ridiculed them, saying, well, you're not doctors. And Jack Henningfield said, no, I train doctors in this space. And they've done all this wealth of information on kratom and its psychoactive properties and evaluation of its safety profile. He wasn't interested. And he was successful in ramming that through. Now, those two experiences, there are some within the kratom industry that have decided that they're done with trying to be reasonable, and they're taking the position that that there's no kratom product that can be defended except pure leaf kratom. The American Kratom Association has taken the position consistently that we follow the federal law with respect to market entry of kratom products. That law says that if the manufacturer has a reasonable basis for safety based under the conditions of use for labeling, they are able to enter the marketplace. It is a standard that is strict. You have to have evidence and data. And it is why today the 7-hydroxymitragynine products do not meet that standard, and why at the American Kratom Association we oppose the market entry of those products. You have to meet that standard of evidence and data that documents the safety profile of your product. It is not sufficient to piggyback on other research, for example, the way the 7-OH people try to do by saying, oh, well, there was an evaluation during the scheduling recommendation by the DEA that recommended by the FDA, and they evaluated both mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine. Well, no, 7-hydroxymitragynine products didn't enter the marketplace until 2023, and the evaluation was done in 2018 by Dr. Brett Chua at the Department of Health and Human Services, and he did not look at super concentrated synthetic 7-hydroxymitragynine products. He did not, and yet they claim that that's the case. The protections of the federal law for market entry are equally as strict on kratom products. If your formulation of the kratom product, whether it is a pure leaf product or a product that uses food grade solvents to extract your products, meaning you strip out all the potential microbial contamination, heavy metals, all of that, and you end up with a product of the extracted mitragynine, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you use the food grade solvents that the FDA approves. It is when you use super concentrated chemicals that leave what they call artifacts in the kratom product, that's where you get into dangerous products. And so it's a critical issue here for us to be accepting of products that meet the safety standard required under federal law for market entry. And the bottom line for us is that consumer protection requires scientific integrity and honest labeling. That's the standard. And we are not going to be in a position of picking winners and losers in the marketplace based on the desires of a specific competitor who wants to shrink the marketplace, eliminate competing products just because they're formulated differently. And their argument is the distinction between pure leaf products and extract products is somehow a demarcation line that they can identify. It is not accurate. And that's important for us to do. And I know that other advocacy groups are going to be pushing this. And I think it is a mistake to do so because we think it's important that, and we categorically reject any implication that we support the marketing products that fail to meet the standards I just articulated. We have consistently called for bans on synthetic and semi-synthetic and purely chemically formulated kratom analogs, especially those that contain the elevated levels of 7-hydroxymitragynine, which do not occur naturally in any meaningful amount of the raw kratom leaf. But we also support, again, the introduction of those products of which the evidence and data possessed by the kratom manufacturer on those products. The Louisiana ban was driven by misinformation, not any regulatory failure, which some groups are now advocating happen. For example, the Global Kratom Coalition attempts to reframe the Louisiana kratom ban as a failure of the broader kratom industry not to wake up and recognize we can't have extract products. That debate was riddled with misleading claims by Senator Morris. Who not only attacked the top global scientists in the world, including NIH-funded experts, but he also spread scientifically inaccurate statements conflating high-potency synthetic-like extracts with traditional kratom and properly formulated kratom extracts, as I've described. Senator Morris's quote dismissing the scientific distinction between kratom and synthetic concentrates undermines any credible policy discussion. And if we're going to adopt the standard, as now is being recommended, as we understand it, by the Global Kratom Coalition, to cite broad FDA statements as definitive. So they cite the fact that Senator Morris said that OPMS Black products were cited in a consumer advisory by the FDA. That is true. But what the FDA has not done is documented the basis upon which that advisory was issued. And they're currently in a legal battle about whether that should happen. But the critical point is if we're going to use the standard that if the FDA demonizes any kratom product, and that's the basis to remove it from the market, then we're in dangerous territory, because we know that on the FDA and kratom webpage, the FDA asserts the claim that all kratom products are adulterated per se and as a dietary ingredient, and therefore are not legally marketed in the United States. We know that that's not true, but yet the FDA is saying it, and that's why many of these legislators are lomming on to that language and claiming it to be true. All of us remember, and if we're going to use the standard, if the FDA targets you, singles you out, and says you're subject to a regulatory enforcement action, therefore you can't be on the market, we all know that the FDA took an completely unjustified regulatory enforcement action against Feel Free. They went in on the false claim that it was an adulterated product, and they used a lot of assertions of what so-called facts that justified their seizure of the product. If that's the case, and the GKC wants to be consistent, and it is the basis for removing products from the marketplace, then Feel Free's gone too, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because they have, according to them, and we take it in good faith, they have the evidence and data that justifies the evidence for their entering the marketplace and in terms of the safety profile of their product. But just because there's an FDA warning, or there is a class action lawsuit or a product liability suit that's issued against a kratom product, and that becomes the basis to conclude that that's a violative product, then we're all lost, because there won't be any kratom products on the marketplace. We are equally opposed to definitions on the mitragynine content of a kratom product, the levels at which they're there, because different formulations can meet the federal standard for having sufficient evidence and data to document the safety profile of the product under the conditions of use. So you can have pure leaf product, you can have extract products, you can have liquid products and capsule products, you can have powders, you can have a number of different product formulations, all of which meet the standard that I've discussed. And there should be no way that we apply this self-serving criteria to eliminate competitive products out of the marketplace. And most importantly, from our standpoint, you deprive consumers of choices of products that they find to be acceptable and useful and beneficial based on their purchasing of those products along the way. And as long as they meet the standard for being safely formulated under the federal standard, they should be allowed to remain on the market, and consumers should have them accessible, and it should not be a battle between competitors. I would also say that at this point, unity, not division, is the great path forward. We all know at Aesop's Fables that they wisely noted that united we stand, divided we fall. Consumers depend today on a diverse, responsible kratom marketplace that includes a range of kratom product formulations, from raw leaf to properly extracted products, so long as they're safely manufactured, accurately labeled, and properly regulated. That should be the standard that all of us have. It's a grave mistake for any group of manufacturers or an individual manufacturer to attempt to use the regulatory or legal statutory process to gain a market advantage by attacking fellow manufacturers in an industry without any legitimate safety or policy justification. It just gives more ammunition to the prohibitionists, and it invites a wave of unjustified bans. We're seeing that in Louisiana, Connecticut, and North Carolina. We don't need more of it being fed by the industry itself. And I think that I'm hopeful that the GKC will reconsider their position. We invite every stakeholder in this industry to work collaboratively on realistic and enforceable standards without resorting to smear campaigns or public infighting that benefits no one except those people that want to criminalize kratom. That's the bottom line for us. So as we approach the remaining states that we are working with in this current legislative session, and that includes North Carolina, It includes New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island until they finish off. We're still fighting in Connecticut. Hopefully, the governor is going to veto that bill. We're working in Ohio. We have some potential opportunity, well, obviously in California, some potential opportunity in a couple other states with special sessions, including Illinois, where we can make our case. But look at the challenge for us in the upcoming year. And this is why I argue strongly as I can that we don't divide each other, but we're going to face a ban in Tennessee, no doubt, because of the misinformation that's being circulated. We're going to face a ban in the state of Washington. We're going to face a ban in Montana. We're going to face a ban in Missouri, all because of infighting and because of the influence in large respects by 7-hydroxynitrogynine products in the marketplace. We're going to see it in Illinois. We're going to see a continuation to preserve the ban in Indiana. We're going to see the same effort in Arkansas. So a lot of these states can be properly lobbied if we are unified and we work together, and that's what we're hoping for as we go forward. So I'm going to let David explain what the current situation is in New York, because this again, as I said at the outset, this is an example of how sausage is made and how our best outcome sometimes doesn't work, and you have to work within the parameters of what the hand that we're dealt. So David, I'll let you take it away and explain what's going on with the two bills up in New York that we're
Thanks, Mac. Really appreciate it. And agree with you 100% that unfortunately we're seeing a flurry of activity, and mostly because of 7-OH and how that's really impacting the market and the lack of knowledge that many lawmakers have. And that's what we've seen in New York. So we've had 5 bills introduced this year in New York dealing with kratom. We have our bill, the KCPA, which we've made amendments to, and we have good language now. We have 2 age restriction bills that were introduced. We had a ban bill, and we have a labeling bill. So the 2 bills that made it through the legislative session, we have a labeling bill and we have an age restriction bill. And so the way in New York State, we have the opportunity that once it passes the legislature, it passes through the Assembly and the Senate, we have this ability called a chapter amendment. And so basically that is, instead of the governor vetoing a bill, if they can make an agreement, it's basically a handshake agreement between the legislative leaders of both chambers and the governor. And typically that's the sponsors of the bills. And they agree to amendment language. The governor signs the bill, and then they enact it in the beginning of the next legislative session. So basically, what we have the opportunity to do is to make these bills palatable and make them better than they are currently right now, the language that they currently have. So first, the age restriction bill, all that is that you have to be 21 to purchase kratom. And then they have attached to that bill a study that would be done by the Department of Health. And we're going to work with the sponsors of the bill. The sponsors already indicated to me that he's open to this and willing to do it, to strip out that study bill. And the reason why is because, unfortunately, what that would do is just allow a lot of this to be kicking the can down the road. That they say, oh, we're going to study it so we don't have to do our comprehensive KCPA bill. And that would be problematic. Not life altering or not a ban situation, but something that obviously would slow our progress in regulating kratom. The other bill is a labeling bill. And unfortunately, this bill got through the legislature, and the lawmakers that sponsored the bill just do not have that understanding of kratom and the problem of 7-hydroxynitrogynine. And not being able to differentiate between the two, this bill, if passed as currently written, we believe would exacerbate the situation, because it would give cover to 7-OH to say that it's a kratom product. There's just certain warnings that have to be put on the product, but that's basically it. So we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to take much of the language that's already pending in our Kratom Consumer Protection Bill and substitute that into the language for the labeling requirement. With those simple changes, we are on our way to having a much better environment for kratom. Not exactly to the place where we want to be with the KCPA language, but we're on the way. One of the the glass half full way to look at this is that the flurry of activity we have is good in some regards, that lawmakers are paying attention to something that we've been talking about and trying to get them to make a priority for a long time. The problem is that with the lack of education in terms of knowing what kratom is and what it isn't, you have these reckless pieces of legislation that can move. And that's, as Mac has said, I share that concern that I believe that we're going to see a lot of bills introduced from lawmakers that just don't have that understanding. And that's why their first act will be a ban bill. Many times when those bills go in, it's lawmakers just doing a knee-jerk reaction, not knowing what to do. So they put that bill in. And I know Mac and I have had experience of working with lawmakers that have done that to convert them to be champions for the KCPA and regulating kratom. But that's something that we're going to have to work on all together, is educating lawmakers as best as we can about the dangers of not regulating kratom, allowing it to be synthesized products, and leveling the levels of 7-hydroxy atrogenine. So it's very problematic. But that is one of the things that's giving us at least some leverage to say that the lawmakers really have to take this up. And in absence of it, we have people injuring themselves, getting hurt, and a public safety risk. So we'll be keeping you in the loop in terms of how we progress with those talks with the lawmakers and the governor. But I feel we're in a good position. One thing I want to address in terms of we've had a ban bill introduced in New York. That bill was not moving anywhere. It's a bill that just did not get the attraction to lawmakers. In New York, we have an environment where the legislature is really not keen on developing new penalties or new criminal actions. So that's something where the way that bill was written, especially the ban bill, was to schedule it. And we don't have a system to schedule in New York State the way that the bill was written. So it wasn't a serious bill, but I do understand that it gets people very concerned. And we should be concerned when we see legislative actions like that. But it has been an opportunity for me and my team and advocates to talk to lawmakers that are interested. We talk to ones that aren't interested as well, but obviously we get a better reception from those that actually are engaged in this issue, that we can educate them about what is really going on. So that's where we are in New York. And I think it's an example of what is happening in other states in terms of just a fury of activity and just not really understanding the basics of what kratom is. So I think that we're in a good spot there with the labeling bill, with the age restriction bill, and moving us closer to getting a comprehensive KCPA bill passed in New York. So thank you, Mac, and happy to take any questions if that's appropriate.
Hang in. And if anyone has a question, you can put it up on the Q&A. And Andrew, I can tell you, we as a webinar, we don't need to see or hear you. You're there. We can see your question, and you can you can submit a question if you would like. And that's the way to do it. And then we'll answer each one. We will not finish until we answer all of your questions, I can assure you. So part of that. The one last report that I'll give you, it involves the federal level. We have been working with our sponsors of the Federal Kratom Consumer Protection Act, and we've cleared new language which specifically will include very tough regulations on 7-hydroxymytrogynine products. And that language should be, it's been submitted to the Ledge Council. The Congress is pretty busy right now, so we think it might be a week or two before we get it filed, but we're very encouraged that the new language toughens up what we've learned about 7-OH products, and we're going to be working there. I'm going to go first to Michael. He points out that a woman in Illinois has a petition to ban kratom because she blames her husband's suicide on it. Also, another alleged death in Adams County, Illinois. All I see is 7-OH being sold in gas stations. Any way we can get it removed, would KCPA legislation solve this issue? The answer to that is yes. Our Kratom Consumer Protection Act does solve this issue because it puts restrictions on synthetic, semi-synthetic, and purely chemically formulated kratom-like products. We don't allow those products to be sold, and it is a sufficient protection for consumers to do that. And then the existing protections at the federal level provide the framework for a safe kratom products. The issue with 7-OH is out of control at this point. We see 7OH products. If you look at the marketing that goes on, I made a presentation at a trade show in Chicago last week, and I gave examples of the kinds of products that are being sold, and they are the most absurd kinds of packaging and marketing materials. One of the 7OH products is called Smurfs, and it's made to look like a child's candy. And then they have another that looks like ice cream cones in a confection. And these, I mean, it's incredible. And the levels of serving sizes are rapidly escalating from what started out as 7.5 milligrams to now some 60 and 80 milligrams per serving. One of the leading producers of 7-hydroxymitragynine products in the United States testified in Rhode Island and said that 28 milligrams was a serving size that was acceptable. In Massachusetts, he testified that you could sit down and eat 2 pounds of 7-hydroxymitragynine and it wouldn't hurt you. One of the legislators caught me in the hall afterwards and said, well, let's take him up on that. Let's hook him up to all of the vital signs, and let's let him start eating, and we'll know precisely when he died. It was in jest, but it's true. There's no way that anyone could ingest that level of 7OH and survive. All of the troubling and alarming data that is being produced by scientists right now show that as a full mu opioid receptor agonist, it's not a partial agonist like mitragynine is. It has the same effects as an opioid, and it has the same addictive qualities, euphoric highs, and the respiratory suppression. So this is a ticking time bomb in this industry. We have to act to protect it, which is why we're so tough on it along the way. So our bills do that. We're going to continue to strengthen them. The new federal bill will do that. I can tell you that the 7OH people are actively lobbying. They're out there saying, oh, this is just a turf war. This is just people trying to compete against one another, trying to eliminate us. No, it's a safety issue for consumers. That's the bottom line for us. And they can have fights in the competitive marketplace, as I referenced earlier, and those should be on a product competitive basis for consumers to choose, but it should be among a universe of products that are safe. And I can tell you that the lead scientist for the 7OH product industry presented in Florida at a meeting that we had in January, and he acknowledged that there was no evidence and data that scientifically justified the safety of 7OH products in their market entry 2 years ago, nor in January of 2025, and that they were hoping that they would have that scientific data by the end of this year or in 2026. That doesn't meet the federal standard. So we're fighting hard against these 7OH products, which we think masquerade as kratom products, mislead consumers, and they're dangerous. And so until they can prove that under the conditions of use, an appropriate label for it, if you were to take the naturally occurring levels of 7OH, as we've observed it, that occurs in the natural drying process of the kratom leaves prior to them being powderized and shipped to the United States from Indonesia and Southeast Asian countries, you would see less than 0.4 milligrams per serving of 7OH. And then you can contrast that to 28 milligrams or 80 milligrams. It's just not safe in the way that it's done. An anonymous attendee says, I think the only way kratom survives in the long term is for it to be definitively separate from synthetics. I agree. Pure powdered leaf and only simple extracts that do not alter or enhance alkali ratio. 7OH is not, kratom pseudo is not, kratom is a leaf. I agree in part. Again, it goes down to the conditions of use on extract products that use FDA-approved food-grade solvents, which limit the ability to increase the potency of the mitragynine that's in that product. So that's just something to keep in mind. Misty says she's tired of the pissing contest, as am I. I'm hopeful we can get back into a reasonable discussion that we can align together, and we will be more successful in a unified approach rather than fighting one another. We're working hard to do it. Kevin says, hopefully you are educating lawmakers that these synthetics are not kratom. We do that every day. Every time we get the chance, we're circulating peer-reviewed research on the distinctions between pure kratom and synthetics. We're doing our very best, and we're going to continue to do it. Samantha asked if Governor Landry wrote back to you on the letter we sent. Not yet, but we're in discussions with them, and there is some interest. A little bit logistically difficult to have a Kratom Science Commission, but we're hoping that that he'll accept that and we can move forward with it. We're going to continue to work with him along the way, hopefully to actually take care of that. Glenn says, at this point, there's no way anyone's going to convince me that this is about passion. Just by the way they are going about manipulating is not done by a layperson. Someone with experience of sneaking these laws with the top couple of the KCPA, couple of the top of the anti-kratom group, and one or two professionals are benefiting financially. These are great points, and I think that they illustrate the challenge we have where you find some well-placed, highly funded anti-kratom groups that are having influence, and you see this narrative that's based on what the FDA is doing. And I'm going to discuss before we close what we're doing at a federal level about trying to change the narrative at the FDA. So, and Glenn goes on to say that 708 should be banned. Absolutely the case. Marvin asked what's going on in North Carolina. Excuse me. First, we're fighting this ban. Secondly, we're promoting the KCPA, which has already been through multiple committees. We've had testimony on it, had good success. I think we're going to continue to push that and fight against this irrational ban proposal that's been proposed. Stephen asked, in general, are legislators specifically voicing new concerns that come from the 708 that they did not have before it came on the market? What we're seeing is that they're reacting to reports from consumers who come in and say, I'm taking kratom and I'm hooked. I'm hooked within 2 weeks. I'm feeling these euphoric highs. This is much different than the kratom I used to take. Well, the reason is they're not taking kratom. They're taking a synthetic or semi-synthetic 708 product or its successor products, Sudandoxil, and then there's an MG now, all of which are chemical formulations that's very akin to what happened in the hemp industry, where they started to amp up the potency of intoxicating hemp products. And we see that's now led to action at the federal level, where there was a proposal that passed the Probes Committee to ban all hemp intoxicating products. That shows you the level of attention that can come to it if you continue to do that. John asked.
And Mac, if there's a way to circulate that op-ed that was in the Hill yesterday, written by the former head of the CDC, that really helped explain that issue. Because we've had a hard time, obviously, talking to people that never heard of kratom is something I'm sure we've all experienced, and it happens a lot, particularly lawmakers. Now we have that extra level to tell them that this product that says kratom on it is not actually kratom. And so it has been another level of difficulty. But there was a great op-ed yesterday in the Hill publication that I thought was really intelligently written, and obviously someone that knew the facts and has credibility helps us in that argument of why it's so important that this is regulated. So thanks, Matt.
Well, and Tracy asked the questions, will the New York bills be voted on this session ending in June?
Yeah, so so the session just ended yesterday morning. And so the bills, we had 5 bills introduced, 2 did pass, but that doesn't mean that they go into law. Now we're going to be working with the governor and the sponsors to make specific amendments to those bills. That's the age restriction bill you'd have to be over the age of 21. And then we have a labeling bill where we have just some problematic language in terms of what you actually would be required to put on the label. And I think we're going to be successful in getting language that the American Kratom Association is confident will actually protect and help consumers. And then we're laying the foundation with these bills to get the comprehensive KCPA passed in New York. So that's where the process is right now.
Great, thank you. Edie and Chris talk about North Carolina and John. I think the question that Edie asked is, and Edie, thank you for your absolutely fabulous advocacy. It's great, and you should be recognized for that. Should North Carolina advocates attempt to schedule in-person meetings in Raleigh? Yes. We need every voice that we can, either in-person meetings, emailing, or calling. Now, we'll put out an alert when we get a couple of days from now, when we get more direction from our lobbyist about how to address specifically the current ban bill. And we're going to get some more information tomorrow or Friday on that. We'll communicate, but there's nothing wrong now from reaching out, scheduling meetings, talking to your representative or senator to do it. I think it's absolutely fabulous to do that. The new language that's added to HB 329 to schedule kratom as a Schedule 6. First off, that's not an appropriate schedule for it. But they know they can't get a Schedule 1. Schedule 6 applies to a prescription drug product, and that's in the federal statute, which is mirrored in North Carolina. So problematic on that bill, but there's lots of other issues that we're working on in order to defeat that ban bill, and I think we'll be successful. Laurie asked, does anyone know how the Indonesian Health Ministry sits on 7-OH? They're not selling crushed leaf anymore as a preventative measure, and do they know that it has no such effect? Thanks. So I can tell you that I've spent hours and hours and hours with on Zoom calls with people in Indonesia, and they're well-intentioned. They tend to overreact a little bit about misinformation that they receive, including about 7-OH. The fact that they're selling crushed leaf is really for extracts. It could be for 7-OH, don't get me wrong, but 7-OH, it has to become an extract first, and then it is chemically processed and synthesized from that. This is a very complex process. The Indonesian government mistakenly, despite the best advice that we gave them in a visit last October, they elected to ignore the advice we provided to them about the best way to approach the import alert issue. And they went to the FDA hat in hand and said, oh, we've got these new great regulations. We're going to clean up the supply chain, and we're going to be able to eliminate all microbial contaminants and certify with testing that this is clean product. And the FDA predictably did what I told them they would do, which is that the FDA said, no, thanks. Their bias against kratom shows, and it was just a bad strategy. Now, the Indonesian government's willing to work more cooperatively with us, and I think that we're going to be able to make some progress there. So hopefully, but it's important for them to understand, and everyone else, that restricting crushed leaf doesn't do anything about restricting 7-OH, because you can make 7-OH out of the powder too. It's just a matter of going through a different extraction process and then synthetically or semi-synthetically converting it along the way. Kevin said, I think 7-OH and synthetics is a threat to the progress the AK has accomplished for kratom. What are your thoughts? It absolutely does. This is a new problematic messaging that we have to address. I was on a call earlier with some of the vendors, and I told them this is going to be a battle. And it's the new beachhead that we have got to fight on that's created by the 7-OH people, and they've got money. They're hiring lobbyists around the country to try to undermine what we're doing. And so we've got to match that, and it's going to take advocates raising their voices and to put a little shoe leather on up in these state capitals and help us financially, because these are expensive fights that we get into, but we can't shrink from those fights because these guys throw a lot of money around. So we're going to be advocating and asking you to help us as best you can as we go forward. And rattling the tin cup is just part of this process. Tim asked, is North Carolina amendment on the hemp bill likely to be removed? We hope so. You correctly point out, it didn't seem like most of the lawmakers knew what it was, but still progressed to the next committee. That's part of the process, but we're working with the sponsor and with the leadership in order to educate them. And obviously you're correct that the regulation was preferred by the members of the Senate, and we're working hard to work on that. John asked if there's any movement on KCPA in Pennsylvania. We're stuck in the committee. We're working to unstick it. And so part of it is 7-OH, and part of it is some of the fighting in terms of the competing kratom industry people. So we're just going to try to unstick it and get it moving. Senator Pennycook has been great for us up there. We want to support her as she moves forward here. Misty says TikTokers are calling 7-OH the silent epidemic. It is. And you know, it's astounding to hear some of the claims that the 7-OH people are making about their products. And you know, they claim that there is a group of responsible vendors that don't put the packaging that's appealing to children and don't advocate for the super concentrated serving sizes. Well, I don't see much of that, frankly, but that's what they claim. Clearly, 7-OH is a drug that is powerful. It is highly potent. It is 10, I think it's 11 to 13, or 11 to 23 times more powerful than heroin. I mean, it's got all of the earmarks of being an opioid product that really is dangerous. And I think the silent epidemic is a great characterization of it. Ryan says, can you re-summarize the situation in California? Is there any imminent threat to the legality of kratom there? There is, if the California Department of Health is allowed to implement the current effort that they have undertaken to seize kratom products by manufacturers and individual vendors. They're out there doing that now, and we're trying to get the assembly to pass the KCPA so that it restricts the California Department of Health from doing that. It is a slog, but we're working hard on doing it. And it is an imminent threat because they're already shutting it down in some jurisdictions. And that's why the legislature is trying to move it as swiftly as possible. Steve says, how much has the surge in 7-OH use and its drug-related marketing played a role as the incentive for the new ban attempts? It is a strong catalyst for the ban. And you heard it from Senator Perry and from Senator Morris. So you can't distinguish between the good and the bad. And so they're saying, let's ban everything. And while that's illogical and in some cases insane, because then you just let the black market rule, better to ban those products regulate rather, and better to ban those products that are arguably and scientifically proven to be dangerous. And I think that's the part of it. Make no mistake, the 7-OH surge in those products is fueling the concerns by anti-kratom advocates, and they're exploiting it, and they are going to make it into a very difficult problem. So I think that's where we are. Malcolm says House Bill 468, regulation of kratom products versus 328 of the hemp-derived consumables. We please be alert for our consumer advocacy alerts. If you're not on that list, would you please email us and if I could ask Mark to put the address up in the chat, that would be great so people can see it. And let us know who you are, how we can contact you, and add you to our list. We obviously want help from as many advocates as we can find. Walter asked, are you aware of any scientific publications documenting the adverse of 7-OH products? Given the widespread use of 7-OH products, one would expect that many such reports will be appearing in the literature. Thanks for your great work. Walter, thank you for all the work that you've done over the years in helping us as a researcher and a prominent voice in the kratom research community. The answer to your question is yes, there's rapidly published literature, some of them just recent. Walter, I'll make sure that we send that to you so you see the latest stuff. There's studies that are now being completed. Some case studies have been done, and all of it is alarming in terms of the effects that 7-hydroxymytrogynine products are having. So that's where we are with that, but I'll certainly follow up, Walter, make sure that you get those things, and we'll put them up on our website. Maybe that's the best way to do it, is to put them up on our website. Everybody can just go download them, but we'll make sure we do that. Marvin says, is OPMS a 7-OH? The answer to that is no. If you're talking about the OPMS brand, I've reached out to the people that run that brand. There were rumors being circulated by some of their competitors that OPMS has a 7-hydroxymytrogynine product. They do not. They have advocated against them. They have fully supported the AK's effort to make sure that 7-OH products are banned. So I would say no, that's not an accurate rumor. To the extent that you heard the rumor, it's certainly not true. And again, anti-competitive behavior in the marketplace along the way. Brandon says, thanks for hosting this. My question is regarding Connecticut. Given that HB 6855 includes kratom in a broad scheduling amendment without separating the natural leaf from synthetics like 7-OH, what are the best next steps we could take to push for either a veto or at a minimum an amendment that removes natural leaf from this bill and instead introduces KCPA style regulation? They have a KCPA bill, they just didn't pass it. This ban is in a big bill. The governor, it's going to hinge on whether the governor is for or against hemp products, because we got inserted into it. So there's a possibility if he does oppose that and the hemp industry is mounting a big initiative there, then we may get lucky and get this vetoed. But we're going to have to fix it in Connecticut the next legislative session. There is a potential opportunity in September where they go into special session on budget issues. And given that there is a fiscal impact of banning kratom in the state of Connecticut, we might be able to slip in with a appropriate amendment, but that's a long shot. We're having our lobbyists evaluate that, but very difficult issue. So we're working on this. John asked, you mentioned the ban bill in New York has no real momentum. Do you know if the North Carolina ban bill amendment is in a similar situation? Not dead yet, and we hope that it will be soon. But it was just introduced, and we're seeing legislators kind of getting their arms around it. We're educating them about how this is a bad bill. So we'll see how that works out. Misty Brown, 708ers are still saying about the overdose test dropping per CDC is attributed to 708 use. This is probably the most egregious example of stolen valor that exists in the medical space. To make a claim, as 708 is doing, that there is a correlation between the entry of 708 products in 2023 and the subsequent reduction of overdose deaths, and therefore we should all conclude that 708 is the basis for the reduction in overdose deaths. This is nonsense. There are Pulitzer Prize winning research articles that have been done that document it was two things that influenced the reduction in overdose deaths from opioids in the United States. The first is that we emerged from the COVID lockdowns that had everybody isolated, and the number of overdose deaths occurred because people were sitting at home alone using opioids with no network of support. And one of the greatest interventions that can occur with an overdose is a friend is present or a group of friends, and they administer Narcan, not 7-OH. And Narcan, because of the evolution of our coming out of COVID and isolation associated with it, and the wide distribution of Narcan, which the government facilitated, is why we saw that reduction. And that is documented. It's not pie in the sky nonsense. It's not someone stealing the valor of what Narcan is doing and claiming it's them. That it is offensive. And any rational person would see right through that they're exploiting the presence of that product on the marketplace. 7-OH, as best as we can determine on the science that's being produced currently, is a part of the problem, not the solution. And so we've got to simply fight back. And the fact that they say it tells you how disingenuous they are. Ryan asks, when does the Connecticut law go into effect if the governor doesn't sign the bill? The section that bans kratom says effective upon passage. If the law does get signed, how long does it take before kratom is officially banned in Connecticut? It's effective on the date of the signing of the bill, as we understand it. So we want to hopefully get it vetoed, but it's problematic because it will become effective immediately. Now, how it's enforced is a separate question, but the ban will be in place there shortly. Whether the governor signs it or it becomes law without a signature, it still will become a ban. Ryan asked, what is the game plan in Connecticut? Are there scheduling hearings in October? I believe the deadline for the governor signing the bill is quite close and it automatically becomes law even if he doesn't. Absolutely right, it does. We're hopeful that we are going to be able to talk to the director of consumer protection because there's a little bit of leeway on how enforcement can take place. We're hoping to convince that individual that we're going to be working with the legislature in order to get this bill amended and allow for appropriate regulation along the way. So I think that's something that we're going to work on. Michelle asked, the ban is dead in Texas, right? Dead as dead can be until 2 years from now, where we'll have to fight that battle again. But hopefully we're better armed, better prepared, and we're going to be fighting hard in Texas. The ban or the over-regulation bill in Florida is dead as dead can be. And that was great that we were able to stop that bill because we thought it was awful. The Department of Agriculture is the boogeyman there, and they're anti-kratom, and they just want to over-regulate it. Ryan asked, update in Connecticut, we've done that. Misty says, answer this. Your fight against 7-OH is exactly why kratom as a whole is in trouble throughout the country. You thought you could demonize one alkaloid without jeopardizing the entire plant. It backfired. Now, instead of realizing that and fighting for proper labeling, you continue to double down on banning 7-OH. You screwed millions of users over greed and ignorance. Well, that's an interesting point of view from a 7-OH manufacturer advocate. And I've been called worse It doesn't feel good to get into these kinds of battles. But when it comes down to one thing being true, which is that there is a sufficient database of evidence and data that documents the safety profile of kratom, including kratom extracts using food grade solvents. That documentation is there with market experience demonstrating that those products are safe. There is no evidence and data that the 7-OH industry can point to that documents that their products are equally grounded because they don't have any of the science. Oh, they're going to get to it, they claim, and we will have to look at those scientific articles closely because it takes appropriately designed, rigorous scientific studies in order to document the safety of your products. Ryan asks, I can stop asking questions after this. No, your questions are welcome. Is there any information on the movement toward the KCP in Minnesota? The answer to that is that we're stuck in the mud in Minnesota and in Michigan, but we're working to try to fix that and get it going. It's just been a confluence of events that have stopped us. A lot of it anti-kratom people that are in there trying to get a ban, and we're just playing a game of chess here. And right now we're at checkmate, not having a winner, but we're working hard on it. But it's a little bit of a problem with resources and hotspots, but it's also the reality that we're not having a great champion there with the leadership to move it through. You asked what type of ban on kratom in North Carolina. What does it look like? It is a straight out ban calling it under Schedule 6, I think. It's just an inappropriate place for it to be. Ronald asked, Matt, can you expound on the challenge ahead for Tennessee? I'm sure you've heard of the officer that got caught stealing kratom in Knoxville. This is a very bad look. What are some of the things we can do now to get the jump on this battle? Ronald, absolutely a great point. The challenge in Tennessee is twofold. One is that there has always been this bias in the legislature against kratom. There was a kratom bill that was passed that the Attorney General had to clarify that only applied to synthetic kratom products. So technically, synthetic kratom products are banned in the state of Tennessee. There was a resolution that was passed by a legislator championing for a family who claimed that their loved one had died from kratom. We don't have any data or any autopsy reports on that death, but it was obviously a sensitive issue. The resolution calling for a ban or the regulation of kratom, we decided to let go that for this legislative session. In working with key legislators, they thought the next session would be appropriate, and we're going to be defining the difference between 7-OH and kratom. And by the way, the news media hasn't caught up yet because the police officer who allegedly stole kratom was stealing 7-OH. And that's understandable since it gets you high, gets you hooked. That's what was going on. So we're going to get the jump on the battle by being prepared in Tennessee and get out in front hard prior to the legislative session. We've got great advocates there, great people who are in the industry that operate in Tennessee. So we're going to be working hard on it. Jenna says she thinks that Connecticut's going to be difficult because maybe if the ban is vetoed, can the KCP also be tied to some harm reduction things going on to make better headway? It's always about, and it's an excellent point, Jenna, it's always about finding the legislative vehicle to get through and the basis upon which the legislators can accept the notion of it. Kratom is a valuable harm reduction tool. That's not me saying it. That's Nora Volkow, who is the director of the Office of the National Institute on Drug Abuse. So yes, I think we can find ways to do that along the way. So thank you, and I think we're going to look to that opportunity to increase the chances of success. Jan says, where are things in Massachusetts? That's a slow-moving state, but we've had the hearing on it. The chairman of the committee was impressed with our argument. He heard from the anti-kratom people. He heard from the 7-OH people, believed that our regulatory approach was the best thing. It's just the way the process works up there, but we've got lobbyists on the ground who are excellent, and we're working on it. Ryan asked about Connecticut. I think we've answered that. Sal asked about Connecticut. You can go back and watch this once it's posted on YouTube, and you'll be able to see it. Sheldon says, I believe the Connecticut bill was approved by both houses and state legislature unanimously, so I suspect that it's unlikely government law will veto it. I think that's right, but there's always the possibility because there's this pushback on the hemp. You correctly point out that if a bill passes with those kinds of margins, the governor is unlikely to be able to sustain an override if he did veto it. But it's still the same pushback being given to the governor is going to be given to the legislators too. And so there's still a chance, slight chance, I would agree, that that in fact the governor could veto it and that we could get a sustained veto, but very slight. If he does sign the bill, what will you do and what can we do to ensure it isn't scheduled? We're going to work with the Department of Consumer Protection, do our best to try to forestall that. But it is a baked cake that we're going to have to somehow unbake. And so it's a difficult proposition. Nate says, anything I can do to help pass the KCPA or the similar KCPAs in New York State? I donate every month and send my story on all bills. Nate, thank you. We need this financial support. David has already articulated how we're going to do it. Come back and watch this video and you'll be able to pick up on what's going on. Ellen asked about Connecticut. Again, you can back and listen to the video. Laurie asked again about the 7OH issue in Indonesia. They are thinking that 7OH is the devil, which they should, and they're trying to restrict it by the supply of kratom raw material, which they shouldn't. So we can figure that out. Andrew says, I have to say that alcoholism runs on both sides of my family. I've been fighting with alcohol abuse for 20 years, and kratom is the only thing that's helped me refrain from consuming alcohol. It's done wonders for me. At the risk of sounding dramatic, I could say it may have saved my life. That's not dramatic. It's those kinds of testimonials that make a huge difference to legislators, and so you need to share that story. I think if you're willing, reach out to us and see if we can talk about maybe doing a video for us where we can share it with legislators and staffers. It would be great as we go forward. John says it's banned in North Carolina. I'm not sure what you mean by that, John. It's not banned yet, and we're hopeful we're going to stop that. Madeline says the Texas KCPA didn't help us this year. What can we do to get it enforced? So we're working with the leadership of the legislature, Madeline, and with the Attorney General's office to identify mechanisms that we can use to assist in the identification of 7OH products, which under current Texas law are illegal, and to be able to with a chain of custody, document their sale and where they come from, and then have the AG's office or the district attorneys in Texas bring actions against those distributors and manufacturers. So we've got a plan and we're going to implement it and within that 2-year period, but we want to stop these 7OH products as best we can. Chris asked, what can he do to help in North Carolina? I live in Raleigh. I'm 30 minutes away in the state legislature. Let me just give you the way that you can support. You can go to www.americankratom.org, join. Do that. www.americankratom.org/join. Send us your information and we're going to add you to our list. And being 30 minutes away from that state legislative capital, that's easy that you can get down there and we'd welcome the support on that. Douglas, you're asking about Connecticut. Again, come back and watch this. Go to that link, and that is www.americankratom.org/join. You can also get information on protectkratom.org/North Carolina. That's a way to help us as well and sign up there. Chris says he's emailing all the senators on the Senate Health Committee. Is there any good literature that I can point them at? Go to our website, protectkratom.org. You'll see the advocacy side of it and the science, and you can download some of the articles. But absolutely do that. And so we absolutely advocate for that. We support it, and we hope that you'll send along that information. But you can get that information on the website. Ryan asked about Connecticut. I think we've exhausted that. Let's see. Melody says, can we get a campaign for consumers to check their vendor to see if it's 7OH? If so, vote with your no on 7OH with your wallet. Melody makes a great point. The reason that 7OH has traction now is that people are buying it and they're preferring it because it clearly has a bigger kick than natural kratom does. When I was in Las Vegas at the Champ Show, which is the trade show of kratom vendors and others, the 7OH were pervasive. And I went to several booths and I said, well, what's the difference between kratom and 7OH? And to a man, they supported the statement that I received from one of the vendors' representatives. They said, "Oh, 708 will knock you on your ass. Kratom doesn't do that." Yes, that's true, and that's why we have to ban 708 products as we're going forward. But Melody's point is great. Quit buying it. Vote with your wallet that you're going to support safely formulated kratom products along the way. Andrew says the kratom I take just says contains Mitragyne specioso. Is this the proper type to consume? Yes, it is, but that's not the right labeling. You can have Mitragyne specioso and have it as a trace amount, and it'll be a 7-OH product. So you buy from a manufacturer that gives you good labeling describing the levels that are in their product. Look at the labeling carefully. Or is that quite simply the scientific or botanical name for kratom? Mitragyne specioso is the plant name for the genus of the kratom plant. And that's what it is. So it has some scientific application, but it's really just the designation under the plant family. Raymond says, anything going on with the Indiana ban? You briefly mentioned earlier they're continuing to push to keep the ban. We thought we were making progress, and yet we got into this fight with the 7-OH people, and now they've shut down on us and moving it. We're hoping that Rhode Island will become the example they should follow. So we're working hard on that. Hugh Clark gives information about being a clinical social worker licensed. If you would send that email address to the www.americankratom.org/join, that would be terrific. We'll try to capture it here too. And so we're going. Jeffrey asked about, is there any hope in Connecticut? We've answered that. Come back and watch. Jeffrey also says the hemp industry has nothing to do with kratom. How do we stop this? We need to fight it. Well, the kratom ban is in the hemp bill, and the hemp industry is fighting back against the bill in Connecticut, and we're hoping that we ride that wave as we're going forward here. Stephen says, is there any research pending that says how much mitragynine gets converted to 7-hydroxymetrogeny in the body? I'm seeing a number of people say that it all or a lot gets turned into it anyway. I can't find anything that suggests that it's true. It is true, Stephen, that 7-hydroxymitragynine mitragynine does convert into 7-hydroxymitragynine in the liver at levels that are safe. If you take 7-hydroxymitragynine and then you put it through the liver, it is a full-blown opioid agonist, and it is going to have deleterious effects. That's where you are with that, and in the naturally occurring levels of mitragynine ingested is converted at safe levels metabolized in the liver after human consumption. But if you take a highly concentrated synthetically or semi-synthetically chemically formulated 7-OH, it's a vastly different story and a high level of problems. Jeff asked a couple of questions about the Connecticut again. You can go on and listen to this. Ryan says, should I worry about traveling to California with kratom in September? No. The enforcement action by the Department of Health is on vendors and distributors and manufacturers. It has nothing to do with consumers at this point. Malcolm says, kratom is to coca leaf as 7-OH is to cocaine. They are not the same. Amen. Absolutely great deal. Heidi says, what is the strategy to pass the KCPA in Illinois? Heidi, thank you. Thank you for your fabulous work across the board. Illinois, I think, has gotten stopped because of the competing bills from the different organizations and a lack of understanding about kratom, and we're hopeful that we can pierce through that. We're going to continue to work on it. The Illinois legislature is done for the year, except for some special sessions, which will not rise here to all of this. So being able to fight on this, we'll wait till next year along the way. Edie asks, is there a deadline we should be aware of in North Carolina? Sooner the better to communicate. The legislature is moving, and so we want to get something across the finish line here. Michael says, curious if it's a good idea to passage of a law to have products be sold only at holistic herb shops as opposed to gas stations. Seems like gas stations are gaining negative attention. Is this because of 7-OH? Partially, but actually the gas station stigma has been around for a while, and it's a convenient bumper sticker kind of thing to say, oh, it's gas station heroin or it's sold in gas stations. Uh, I heard an interesting response from Jack Henningfield last year when he was testifying, interestingly, in Louisiana, and a senator asked him, well, don't you think it's about time we restricted access to gas stations, from gas stations? And Jack said, well, that sounds good, but you have to understand that there are people out there in the world that are struggling with opioid addictions that will not go to treatment centers because they're either inaccessible financially or they're not available. And so wherever you can provide an alternative that is a harm reduction tool and it's easily accessible, a gas station is a perfectly appropriate thing. But the key factor is it has to be a regulated product. You can't let a gas station sell 7-OH or a unregulated kratom product. And so I think that's the difference. And I know it's hard to get over the PR of a gas station outlet, but that's, I think, the bottom line. But I think you are right that that the 7-OH is attracting more attention to this, and it's just going to be tough. On the North Carolina stuff, we're working hard, but there's no deadline for the vote at this point, but it's rapidly approaching where we hit the critical mass where we have to get this done. Tracy asked, if does the AK investigate deaths attributed to kratom when they're publicized? We absolutely do. We ask for, in states where it is allowed, we FOIA, the Freedom of Information request, for the autopsy and the tox report. And we take that and put it into a database, and we're accumulating that evidence to demonstrate why some of the claims being made by medical examiners and coroners that kratom is the kratom intoxication or mitragynine intoxication is the cause of the death, because we know that's not scientifically justified. So we're working hard on that. If you know of an alleged death, send it to us, and we'll be glad to ask for the autopsy to see if it's available. Michael says also 7-OH is being sold over the counter in states that have already passed the KCPA, example, Texas. How do you know or ensure it's being enforced? That's one of the challenges. And you pointed out, Michael, and thank you. That's why we have to have a program in place, and we're developing it now here at the AKA, where we get secret shoppers to go out and identify those stores that are selling violative products that are illegal, and we can report them with documentation, a chain of custody for those products to appropriate law enforcement officials. So that's what we're working on, but it's a great point. John says, when media sources cite alleged fatalities due to kratom, are they citing instances where kratom was comorbid with actual opiates? The FDA, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the Office of the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services all unanimously agree, one, that kratom deaths are rare. Two, when they occur, it's because of polydrug use or the adulteration of the kratom product or an underlying health condition. So that's the bottom line. And absolutely, when a media source sensationalizes this idea that kratom is killing someone, there is no known level of toxicity of mitragynine in a person's bloodstream that would cause a death. And so we have to look at the option or the alternative, which is that they are polydrug users or there's an adulterated product. And we have lots of documentation on adulterated products. Jeffrey Rosa asked, have you seen the articles in Connecticut Insider and Connecticut Mirror about how the attorney and UConn professor said the ban is not the right way? I've seen them. I think they're excellent, and we obviously need to fight back. I don't particularly 100% agree with the assessment from the University of Connecticut professor, because I think that there's a bias there towards extract products, which I think is not warranted by the science. But otherwise an advocacy, an advocate and an advocacy message, which is very important. And we don't have to agree 100% on everything, as long as we get most of it right. Misty says, when is the next round of Advocacy Hall of Fame announced? I think you're going to see that announced next month at the Champ Show and around that time frame. If you want to nominate someone, you can go on to the AK website and you can do that. We welcome it. I think it's great. Lori, thanks for the AK's dedication. We love it. We're in here with the fight and working hard on it. Marvin says, the best email to reach you for your video testimonies for kratom advocacy. That would be to www to nominate Hall of Fame people. It's www.protectkratom.org/HOF, meaning Hall of Fame. So that's www.protectkratom.org/Hall of Fame. It's in the chat box here. You can go in and see it. For those that want to send your video testimonials or the email for it, it's support@americankratom.org, and you can take care of that. Ronald asked, what is going on Saturday in Kentucky? I don't remember. I think there's some people working on some effort there at the AK, but I just don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was. Well, John Chinholter just said the Kratom Advocate Gathering Saturday at 2 p.m. in Frankfort, Kentucky, Capitol Plaza Hotel. John, thank you. I've been so immersed in some of these other battles, I've lost track of what was happening in Kentucky, but there you have it. Kratom Advocate Gathering Saturday, 2 p.m., Frankfort, Kentucky, at the Capitol Plaza Hotel. Thanks very much, John. John Shinholzer is our Marine, our fierce advocate, and he's helping with some of these local and state bans that are going around. Brandon asked, would it be possible to regulate the maximum allowable amount of 7-OH in Kratom products to clearly distinguish between naturally occurring trace amounts in raw leaf and the synthetically enhanced or extracted forms that pose a much higher risk to consumers? And then he goes on to give his personal testimonial. The level of 7-hydroxymetrogenine, which the AKA supports, would be no greater than 2% of the overall fraction of the alkaloids in the Kratom product, which is, sorry about that call, which is, when you convert it to 0.4 milligrams per serving of 7-OH, 0.4 milligrams or less. So that's why the 7-OH people that are advocating for 28 milligrams or 50 or 60 or 80 milligrams. I mean, think about that contrast. Safe is 0.4 milligrams or less along the way. Brandon goes on to say there needs to be a fair regulatory approach that protects public health by banning these synthetic products while preserving, and then I lost that. We need to preserve the pure leaf kratom and properly extracted products. We don't need to be fair with the 7-OH because they are already being grossly unfair to consumers as they go forward. Ryan says, I don't believe you explained the exact deadline for veto in Connecticut before it automatically goes into effect. I honestly don't remember the date that the governor has to sign it, but when he signs it or when it becomes law without his signature, my understanding is that it's going to take place then. But I think the commissioner or the director of the Office of Consumer Protection, I think, has until October. But we'll dig that up and try to post that. I'm not certain exactly how that works in Connecticut. We deal with a lot of states. I apologize. Nate says, I want to thank you so much for continued fight for us. Kratom has kept me sober for over 7 years and counting. Wouldn't have access to this miracle plant without the AK support. Well, thank you, Nate, for recognizing that. I got pulled aside by a woman in Texas when I was there, and she expressed a similar sentiment and said how it saved her life and how she was fearful that the ban would deprive her of having access to kratom. I hear that all of the time. And your stories and your story, Nate, is very important to share with your legislators along the way. Ryan asked, this is a question about California. This could be a duplicate, but it sounds like my Connecticut question has popped up multiple times. Should I be worried about traveling to California with kratom this fall? No. The kratom effort on enforcement in California is reserved for distributors, manufacturers, and vendors along the way. Ryan says, will the Rhode Island be able to pass the KCBA before the end of their legislative session? The legislative session is ending this weekend. The answer to that is yes. The critical vote was today in the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, and it passed out 6-4 on the Senate bill and 5-4 on the House bill. Somebody left, and it will be on the floor Friday. And my understanding is that then it'll be validated on the House floor, and we're good to go. Ryan says, you mentioned the Washington ban potentially. Can you discuss this further? I know a scheduling attempt was defeated this past year. We went to the Board of Pharmacy and we defeated their effort to ban kratom and schedule it. Unfortunately, the Washington legislature did not act on the KCPA, didn't even get it introduced because of some procedural issues, but we have been assured that they will in this next session. So we've got our fingers crossed there, and we're going to be pushing hard to make sure that the commitments that were made by Washington legislators actually gets fulfilled. We don't want the Board of Pharmacy to think that we dropped the ball on this. Venus talks about having met with a representative on the aide of a representative on Tuesday. And she says, "Hi, David. Thanks for the help in DC." So, David, you're our go-to famous guy. And Venus thanks you for your effort, and we thank you obviously for it too as well. Chris makes a statement. North Carolina General Assembly shows the Healthcare Committee meeting schedule is Wednesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. That's a good reference point to make sure you weigh in on those committee members before Wednesday and Thursday, or attend the meeting and testify if you can. Ryan says, what is our defense going forward against these stealth attack ban bills? This is something that is impossible for us to predict. And we've been talking about strategies, and some of them are excellent ideas about how we work with developing in each individual state a adopt a legislator kind of program. And that might give us a better way to track some of this stuff. So we're going to brainstorm about this because otherwise it's impossible to know until it happens. Connecticut was a complete surprise to us. North Carolina, thankfully, was done before the end of the legislative session, but it was equally a surprise that someone just tossed it in at the last minute. For Connecticut, Michael says, if the governor signs, what goes into effect immediately? The process for scheduling. I think it will take several months for the decision to be made by the director of the Department of Consumer Protection. But I think that the ban goes into effect immediately. We're going to clarify all that. I apologize for not knowing exactly in Connecticut, but we're going to work on it and see what we come up with. Elazar says the kratom I take states it as the following: 7-hydroxymetrozylene less than 0.03%, mitragynine 1.7 to 2%. Is this AK approved? Well, the bottom line here is that those levels are fine. The 0.03% of 7-hydroxymitragynine mean that it's at the less than quantifiable level. That is a safe level. And the mitragynine 1.7 to 2% is actually a pretty good dose of mitragynine, sometimes as low as 1.3%, but that's perfectly safe and I think will be helpful to you. We do not approve products at the American Kratom Association. We have a GMP program where we approve companies' processes to make sure that they're producing products in a manufacturing facility that complies with federal guidelines for good manufacturing practices, so you don't see cross-contamination between different batches of products, different products being manufactured on the same machine. So we don't approve products per se, but I think that you can look to the science and you could see that the kratom at those levels are safe based on the science, and they're not AK approved in that sense. We advocate for the responsible manufacturers, appropriately regulated, to have a reasonable basis for safety under the conditions of use. So that just means you need to look at that product and certainly look at it carefully. That's the end of the questions. I'm going to finish, and thank you for your patience, describing something that is really significant for the kratom consumers. President Trump issued an order almost 30 days ago, an executive order, on requiring that all government agencies adopt a gold standard of science. And while kratom was not the impetus for this executive order, it's the poster child for it, because it requires all federal agencies, for all regulatory actions they have taken that are scientifically related between 2021 and 2025, to provide a report to a White House office about what actions they took and justifying those actions based on the criteria in the executive order for good science. And I can tell you that the FDA is stone cold guilty in violating that executive order criteria for the science. So we've prepared a petition to the president, to the secretary of HHS, to the commissioner of the FDA, which will challenge the decisions that were made by the FDA that are unwarranted and not justified by the scientific criteria required under the executive order in the implementation of both the import alert and the formulation of the guidance or the directives on the FDA and Kratom webpage, which has been the source of so much of the consternation that's we've been caused by state legislators, by local health departments, by local governments, which is foreseeable by the way, by the FDA. That's just the fact of the matter. And so we're going to challenge this. And hopefully, under that executive order, the FDA will be required to justify the decisions they made for the import alert and the obviously the FDA and Kratom webpage. And we want them taken down, and we want the import alerts modified to only interdict those raw materials that are found by the agency to contain dangerous levels of microbials, salmonella, E. coli, heavy metals, that kind of thing. So that's an exciting thing that we're working hard on, and that would be a game changer if we can get the attention of the White House in this particular area. And I'm telling you, it is tailor-made for us. So we're very excited about that project, and we'll certainly keep you posted on that. We'll conclude. David, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the update and the tutorial that comes on understanding this legislative process a little better. I think that we're excited about the future here. We see the challenge. 7-OH products are the challenge. Internecine warfare between brands within the kratom industry is the challenge. The idea that you can distinguish between pure leaf kratom and an extract is a fool's errand. If the extract is formulated using FDA-approved food-grade solvents, they are safe products. And trying to alter the marketplace through legislation is not well favored by legislators. And so that's a competitive marketplace issue. But we're excited about what's going forward. We'll meet the fight. We need your help. So please, everyone, join this fight. Use the emails that are in the chat. I'll just tell you, if you want to offer support, it's www.americankratom.org/join. And for information about how you can send information to us with your testimonials, it's support@americankratom.org. Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight, and we're going to keep you updated and pushing forward. And thanks for all the questions that you offered. Thanks so much.
All right.
well, that was freaking long.
Yeah. That was long. There was a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah. Which is what I love to see,
Yep.
And the fact that nothing. The stuff that we talk about behind the scenes. It just popped in my head. Oh my God. Okay, so there's a lot to digest. A lot.
Yeah.
So while we were still listening to it, I went and posted the americankratom.org/join. So if you haven't signed up to advocate, go do that. We need more advocates, like for real. We be going through bouts of advocacy fatigue.
Yeah.
I have to make myself take advocacy breaks because that burnout is so for real. So Max said Landry didn't write him back. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. I don't know. I'd be multitasking when I'm on these live streams. I ain't gonna lie.
That's what he said. Yeah, he said he hadn't heard back from him yet. I'm not surprised.
All right. I expect some told you so's from Misty about 7-0 ho. I had to throw in the ho. Yeah, because like I said, I knew about 7-OH, before it even became pretty much popular. And I sat on that information, and But now I don't know if you saw that TikTok where I said I was like, the moment I decided, I said, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start talking about it.
Well, I mean, and somebody needed to, but and I knew it was going to be bad, but I had no idea. Like, I had no idea how bad it was. Like, I guess I just didn't, none of us knew how addictive it was going to be. But it's just like, man, it's mind blowing.
It's one of those situations, and for like for me, I can confidently say I'm a recovered addict because I had thousands of dollars of worth free samples in my hands of 7-OH. And not once did I think, oh, let me go take some back to my hotel to see what these folks are talking about, or go run off into the bathroom and be like, oh, let me go pop one of these real quick,
Or you didn't even like say, you didn't even think to yourself, oh, I can handle it because I'm a recovered addict.
Yeah.
It's like you just didn't even have that.
I didn't have that thought.
Yeah,
that urge. Definitely that urge. So watching all this 7-OH shit come to fruition, it's literally like watching a train wreck. Like you can't look away. You can't look away. And so wait. Yeah. I have a lot of I told you so's. And the fact that we don't even know, like the uptick in deaths, we don't even know if it was 7-OH products they were consuming, because there's no test for the medical examiners to differentiate between mitragynine and 7-OH. So all of it's going to come back and they're going to say it's a kratom death, So the deaths that happened for me, I'm going to say 2023 and 2024 and this year, 7-OH. I automatically assume it is.
Oh, God. No wonder I'm not seeing these comments. Y'all, oh my gosh.
You freaking nerd.
I didn't.
You're not putting them on the screen.
Oh, I didn't. So I wasn't scrolling down. Like, where is she seeing these comments, dude?
Samantha says, yeah, man, it sucks. I want to see some movement in Louisiana. Also, if you don't know, we need video testimonies. That's what I was talking to you about earlier, Jennifer. If you can message me and I can lead you to where. Yeah, because the guy put up a Reddit post about needing video testimonies. Samantha, he messaged me yesterday and I sent him, I let him know that I was on an off-camera break, which I still kind of am. But when these webinars come about, I'm willing to get, brush it off and just fuck it. But I did send him my TikTok playlist that I have for kratom testimonies. And then I sent him my YouTube playlist that I have for kratom testimonies. So he's, he could go take those if he wants. I will eventually put up a video asking folks to do like a little kratom save my life video, 5 seconds, 15 seconds, and just have people tag me in that. And then I could just save the videos from there.
Yeah, did you see Wayne's comment about Louisiana has more prison space than any other state? I think Arkansas is right up there with them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what a coinky dink.
Does the video thing have anything to do with Reddit? Yeah, the guy posted over there on Reddit, so he let me know about that. Yeah, PJ. His name is PJ.
PJ.
Yeah, he was at the Louisiana rally, so he was one of the dudes that was in back. He had 2 signs. He had 2 signs on him. I remember one being hot pink, because I'm in my pink girl era.
Yeah.
So I remember that. And then, and so, yeah, like I said, he messaged me yesterday about that, which I love the idea that he's doing.
Let me pop that back up. Is it easier for you to see it right there?
Yeah, because then I'll be doing this shit.
Yeah. Talking about the prison.
Yeah. Man, I remember I used to watch all those lockup episodes and they would show like the Angola prison in Louisiana. It is literally like old time days, like slave labor shit. Like,
really?
Chain gang stuff.
It's bad in Arkansas too. I mean, like I see like articles all the time because it's, right next to me. It's awful. It's awful. I mean, I can't imagine.
Throughout my years of advocacy, Louisiana has been that one that's just stinks. It stinks.
Yeah.
And I ain't never been there, But all the stuff that I've seen and how they're like 50 years behind Colorado, like our governor just fucking pardoned a bunch of psilocybin.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's like, and you got fucking Louisiana stuck in like the 1930s. Like,
well,
what the
Tennessee
hell?
ain't that far behind them. I mean,
I talk about the 708 Reddit rats being like the sewer of social media, but fucking Louisiana is like the swamp ass of the United States.
I mean, after seeing just how their court hearings and stuff go, yeah. Over like the past 2 or 3 years, it's a shit show. It's awful.
I was like, God dang. But yeah,
well, that was a lot of good information.
A lot of stuff to take in for sure.
Yeah.
Now I don't know when we'll go live again. We just randomly do this shit. We ain't scheduling nothing. We working on our time, our terms, and our time for free.
Yes.
With morals. I'll leave it at that. Oh man, I know Samantha.
I know.
You know, when he started talking, like I said,
I saw that. Yeah.
So, how about that executive order? These government agencies are off the chain, and maybe we might get some accountability finally.
It would be nice. It would be real nice.
I don't give a shit about anything else except kratom legislation. Everything else, when I see it, I'm scrolling. Like, what? Like, they want us to fight amongst each other. It's like...
Oh, yeah.
It takes away the distraction to them. I'm 46 years old. I've seen a lot of shit,
Yeah.
So, and I ain't freaking drugged up anymore, so I ain't trying to escape reality. So... None of us want kratom schedule. What the hell, Wayne? I know our freaking antis were watching that live stream. Probably sipping on their freaking Miller Lights and shit.
Yep.
Slamming back some Fireball.
Celebrating their shady ass bands that they had go through.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And they were heavily involved in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Heavily. Like they couldn't even contain it.
You can always tell.
Uh-huh.
You can always tell because of how it comes about and how it's handled.
Yeah.
You can always tell.
Same talking points.
Yep. It's just crazy. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm still just mind blown about North Carolina.
Yeah.
I wish.
FDA might be held. I hope they do. I mean, shit. So once again, so I already watched like the first documentary on the Tylenol murders, right? And then there's a new one that's just came out, and we started watching that yesterday. And I like to use that as a comparison. When the Tylenol murders happened, they pulled them off the shelves, right? They didn't ban them, but it took an act of Congress in order for like Johnson and Johnson and all them motherfuckers to put the tamper-proof packaging thingy on top, So why come there can't be an act of Congress, to help us continue with safe kratom, or an act of Congress to fucking step in with the synthetic 708 bullshit?
It's all about money at the end of the day. Yeah, you're right, Wayne. I always kind of feel how Mac's feeling.
Yeah.
Like his vibe.
Yeah.
But still, it's insane.
The fact that it was snuck in at the very bottom of the page. On page 18, there was 19 pages. Page 18, the bottom of a little what's it called? Snippet of kratom. Like, what the hell? What the hell, Yante? I freaking love that choir band, I can't remember the name
talking
of them.
about.
I think it's Trap House something. I freaking love their stuff.
Oh. Well, at least we got to watch a couple of the 708 videos. I would like to go live again, though, so we can all kind of just watch them, because I mean, like we were saying earlier, there's so many,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it all boils down to the same thing.
Yeah.
They're trapped.
They are freaking trapped. They've spent thousands of freaking dollars, and
they're going to like the ER to
Yeah.
try and get help for detoxing. They're I mean, they're literally just at their wits' end. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what else we're seeing now? There's freaking body brokers in the rehab industry,
Yeah.
or patient brokers. And we're seeing them reaching out to some of these 7OH people that are having, problems getting off, and or they can't find a rehab with their insurance or what have you. So they're reaching out to these people.
I saw one of those the other
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
And I let that person know. I'm like, unfortunately, when something like the 7OH is trending, and they will see that shit and pounce on it. I said something about like they be crawling out like cockroaches over there on TikTok.
Like the injury lawyers.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
crazy.
sad. And you want to try to stop somebody before that happens because, like I said, patient brokering is addiction by itself.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just.
Well, just from hearing like the horror stories of getting off Suboxone, it really bothers me to know that people are going to that because they're so desperate. You know what I mean? It's sad. Nobody wants to be miserable every day.
We came up with the numbers ourselves just by our years of advocacy. We're like, whole leaf kratom saves about 90% of the people. And then there's that 10% that'll abuse the fuck out of it and then blame the fucking kratom and what was me shit, right? 7OH is vice versa.
Completely opposite, yeah.
90% of the people, it'll fuck them up, fuck their life up, their finances, their marriages, their kids, 90%. And then there'll be that, I almost want to say 95% now.
Yeah, I do too. Even the 10%, like, that's just because half of them haven't found out yet.
Yeah.
The whole, yeah.
So I'm going to say 95%. 7OH is fucking people's lives up. And then you got the 5%, that can use responsibly, blah, 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 crap, right?
Yeah,
or they haven't done the FAFO yet.
Yeah. I've heard methadone was really hard too.
I have too. There's been some people that follow me on TikTok that had successfully gotten off methadone by tapering as low as they can go. And then they make that jump, just like with 7OH. Taper if you can. Taper as low as you can go. Then you make that jump. Once you feel the withdrawals hit, that's when you start the whole leaf kratom. Or lab tested metragenine extracts. That's about the only time I'll advocate for, metragenine extracts, because you can fall down that hole too, with the extracts.
Yeah. It's just
so we're out here mopping up messes again for free. I'm gonna keep saying that. We're like the 7OH janitors around this motherfuckers.
Oh my gosh. I've never had a seizure with alcohol withdrawal, but it's no fun. I mean, it's not. I never want to go back to that feeling ever again.
Methadone has got to be hell. I did cold turkey alcohol 5 times and like clockwork. 36 hours in, I had a seizure. Wow. Well, I mean, the benzo detox and alcohol detoxes are the deadly ones. They are the deadly ones. Samantha, I was on 115 and then went down all the way to 9 milligrams and then quit cold turkey. I was in Florida wearing sweater after sweater, cold as fucking 100 degrees. Hey, I remember those shivers. I wasn't on method. I mean, I was on oxycodones, but still a full opioid. I remember every month when I detox, you get the shivers and the shits.
I hate that feeling of like in the back of your head. If I just, especially like, coming off alcohol, you're telling yourself just a little bit and I'll feel better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you get right back on the wagon again.
Yep. You're justifying it.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to wrap this up? Because we've been on for, what, 2 hours and 19 minutes? Holy shit. I wonder if I... Normally, because you could upload up to an hour on TikTok. So I would have to make part 3. I'd have to do 3.
Oh,
I might just do, I don't know. We'll see.
Mine was whiskey. I was a whiskey gal. I did vodka and then tequila for a while, but.
Well, thank y'all for joining us and chilling with us
coming.
and, all that goody stuff.
Yeah. Next time we're chill session, chill and 7-0 video.
Yeah.
I can't ever think of nothing catchy. You always do that. Chill and 7-0H videos.
Say no to 7-0s, hoes, or something.
Yes.
Okay, well, y'all have a great night.
All right. Bye, everybody.